If you're new to the channel, I need to explain something to you. I am on a quest to make this one of the most capable Sprinter vans out there. The ultimate adventure van, if you will. That is something that a lot of people say, but I'm trying to tackle that with a bunch of modifications to make it more and more and more capable. We did that with the lights, the rack, and all kinds of stuff, right? Now, one of the major ways that you can do that is through modifying the suspension, wheels, tires, and brakes. And we did all of that. As per usual, I enlisted the help of my friends at Mainline Overland, and we are going to go rip into this thing right now.
We're kicking this one off at a familiar spot. We've got 3 guys unboxing stuff. This is a massive project. We've got new rear struts. We've got new rear leaf springs. We've got a 2-inch lift kit going on the van from Van Compass. We've got, let's see, big brakes going on the van from Rotara. We've got new wheels and tires from Nexen. I mean, this is going to be a massive, massive project. Lots of parts going on. And of course, we also have to make sure that the van operates correctly. So we've got a Rentec tuning module that helps prevent codes from being thrown by the added height and tire circumference. And how do you get started on a project like this? You take off the wheels and tires that are on the van and start stripping the old parts so you can get the new ones in. It's a really simple idea. Continuing pulling off old parts that are sort of still new. The King strut's got to come off. Steve is handling that. Steve's one of the new guys at Mainline, and he's a great dude. Really pumped to have him be a part of this van build as things start to evolve. And obviously the rear wheels and tires have to come off, and they reveal the tiny little brakes and those piss-poor leaf springs that are just not good enough. Frankly, not good enough for any Sprinter van, as far as I'm concerned. And now that everything is unbolted, the rear leaf springs can start to come out of the vehicle. Just puny in comparison to the new Deaver setup that we got from Shadowmark. I mean, for what our purposes are, these springs are just flat out better. That is also evident in the shackles that attach the springs to the van. You can see how much beefier the new yellow one is. It's also a drop shackle, so it's a little bit longer, gives us a little bit more travel and everything. And I definitely don't envy these guys having to carry around the leaf packs because they are just not lightweight. And getting them into the van does take a little bit of effort, that's for damn sure. Here you can see them bolting them in, and those tiny rear brakes they're just not great, and we're going to improve that later in the video, I'll tell you what. At this point, it was time to remove the Sumo Springs bump stops. They just simply would not work with the setup that we're going to, and as you can see, there's an enormous amount of water trapped between the mount and the top of the actual bump stop itself. And in trying to get it apart, we realized that was a problem. It was holding water and causing a ton of corrosion, which means we had to drill it out. And yes, this was the case on both sides. It hadn't even rained that day, but they're holding all kinds of water, which is a huge design flaw in my opinion. There needs to be some kind of weep hole to let that out. Irrelevant for this, they both had to come out and be replaced with a spaced out factory bump stop as part of this Van Compass kit. And to add to things, the spacer kit with the factory bump stop was actually pretty difficult for the guys to get installed. The factory bump stops just do not have enough pliability to get into the spacer itself. We're keeping things rolling by installing the rear struts now. You can see that blue hose. You may be wondering what that is. That is a remote reservoir that actually mounts up on the cross member. And here you can actually see the drop links for the sway bar. They're up there on the top side, just getting everything buttoned up and put back together the way it should be. And honestly, it turned out pretty nice. I do not like how close the right side strut is to the exhaust, but that's a Mercedes design flaw. Now look at these damn wheels. Damn, they look good. Rika R35Vs coated by Vibrant Finish here in Pennsylvania. Pat is getting ready to mount the Nexen Tires Rodian ATX. It's a 285 75 17-inch tire, and we're going to put them on these wheels and then keep on rolling, literally. I'll explain why I went with this particular tire in the wrap-up of the video, but I do want to give a shout out again to Nexen for supporting this build. It's a super cool tire, and I really do appreciate the hookup. And until we get to the end of the video, I'm only going to show you a little peek at the rears. Just look at it with me. Just take a look at that. Look at how freaking good that looks. Now, onward to the big brake system from Rotera. Now, this is another setup that did come from Shadowmark. I want to say thank you to them for helping a brother get that sorted out. And we've got some big old slotted rotors here. And as far as I know, this is the only big brake system that will work on a dually sprinter van, a dual rear wheel sprinter van. This is a 6-piston caliper setup all the way around, which is absolutely amazing. Tons of clamping force, tons of heat dissipation, and just exciting, really. I know this will come up in the comments, so I'm going to try to answer the question of why I went with big brakes on the van, or why I felt like I needed them on the van. And we are going to be adding a lot of weight to this platform. I'm going to be traveling all over the place into all the different kinds of conditions. And at the end of the day, I want a more efficient way to stop that extra weight. I want to have every advantage that I can in building this ultimate sprinter van project, and adding more braking capacity is part of that to me. Plus, they look freaking awesome. I mean, they just look cool, and part of my, inner child loves this. I mean, just look at how freaking chunky those are compared to the old factory brakes. You can see that giant rotary caliper. There's a factory one on the ground compared to the new one. I mean, it's night and day. And guys, this is a highly condensed video. This is 2 full days of work. You can see the King strut in the back, the big Deaver leaf spring, the rotary brakes. We've got the shackle there. I mean, there is so much going on here. The van compass kit. This is a good look at what's going on in the rear of the van. You won't be able to see most of this with the wheels and tires in place. And now here's the front, the big rotary brake kit, the King struts. And up top, we've got the van compass spacer kit. We've got the subframe spacers, all kinds of stuff going on here, like I said. But that's pretty much it. We've got it all back together. And there it is with the fender liner. A lot of stuff got trimmed there. A lot of stuff got trimmed to fit these giant 34-inch tires. Patrick is buttoning her back up. We're about to take this thing out and see how she does. And unfortunately, yes, it is still rubbing, but that is a problem for future John. Look at how cool the van looks. We got all the lights on. It's a dreary day. I am just absolutely stoked. This thing has the stance of an absolute monster. It is such a huge, just overall big old setup, and I can't say it enough. I love it.
You can't tell me this doesn't look amazing. Like, look at the stance of this thing. I'm just over the moon with how it turned out. It's so freaking cool looking. But there are a couple issues. The first issue is back here with the brakes, and there's not much I can do about it. Let's get under here and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. You see that? That's the brake rotor. That is completely exposed. And I can actually show you if we go in from the side. There's that beautiful wheel and tire, and then we go in over the top, and boom. There's the brakes, completely exposed. Now, obviously, that makes it changing the pads a lot easier and getting to stuff easier, but that's kind of not really the point. There is a good reason. This used to be a dually, so there used to be a wheel and tire covering that. So the position of the brake is just a little bit inboard of where a single wheel would fall. I don't know if that's going to cause issues with rocks getting caught in there or something down the line, but it is rather exposed compared to most vehicles. And the other issue is kind of just this stage of the build relevant. As you can probably tell, there is a much bigger gap here. It's got a slight rake down to the front. And the issue is that it's right now very, very oversprung. There's almost no weight in the back of the van. So when you're going down the road, it's kind of like this the whole time, over even the most minuscule bumps. And that will be solved, hopefully, once we start putting some actual weight in there. The walls, the power system. There is a floor in there. We'll get to that in the next video. But that is an issue. And the next one is not really a huge problem, but it's something I do want to solve. As you can see, the van is covered in crap all over the side, and it's because that front tire pokes out past the body by just a little bit, and that little excuse for a mud flap that is all that is left after trimming and trimming and trimming is just not doing anything. So my solution is to add a fender flare over this that adds a little bit of width and hopefully blocks some of that crap from flinging up onto the side of the vehicle, and also looks fantastic. Most of the affordable options on the market are just cosmetic. They just stick on. They don't really add any width. You know, they don't stick out from the van. And more importantly, they don't really add any clearance for such a large tire. This is a 34-inch tire. It's quite large for a Sprinter. And there's another good look at the passenger side. It is angled that way just a touch, but you can see it does stick out quite a bit. But the stance on this thing just looks so freaking good.
And on a positive note, I will say I am very excited to try out these new Nexen tires. These are the Rhodian ATX. They are a 285/75/17 tire, and Nexen did sponsor them. They supplied those tires for me for this build, and I'm super pumped to be working with them. The claims are pretty stout about how these perform both on and off-road, and as somebody that puts in a lot of highway miles and also goes off-road in all kinds of weather, I'm really excited to see how they do.
So there you have it. The van suspension and the wheels and the tires and the brakes are handled. That's an amazing place to be. There is much, much more to come. Stick around, get subscribed, because I think it's time to do a recap of everything that's on the van right now in the next video. Let me know if you guys want to see that down in the comments. I think that would be a good way to get everybody on the same page about all the stuff that's been done, because it's a lot. So let me know if you guys want to see the sort of phase 1 recap or whatever. I don't know what to call it. However, as always, thank you all for watching. Thanks for giving a shit. I really do appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.